For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of June 18, 2012, 10-year-old Noor Karim and her father, 40-year-old Rafiq Karim, departed for a day hike near Chilnwalna Falls in Yosemite National Park, California. They never returned. Despite an extensive investigation spanning the rugged wilderness, Noor and Rafiq vanished without a trace, baffling seasoned park rangers. For 8 long years, the Karim family lived with agonizing uncertainty, clinging to the smallest shred of hope. Then, in April 2020, a startling discovery was made deep within the park's formidable terrain. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Noor and Rafiq Karim, and the persistent mystery Yosemite held for nearly a decade. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. The morning of their disappearance, Rafiq Karim, age 40, and his daughter Noor, a spirited 10-year-old, embarked on what promised to be a quintessential Yosemite day. They were day hikers, familiar with the park's allure, and their excitement was palpable as they set out towards Chilnwalna Falls. The early summer sun dappled through the canopy, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns of light and shadow. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, and the distant roar of the falls promised a spectacular reward for their efforts. Chilnwalna Falls, a powerful multi-tiered cascade, was particularly robust that year, fed by a heavy snowmelt that resulted in unusually high flow conditions. This grandeur, however, also presented an inherent danger, with swollen waterways and slippery rock faces. The trail itself was well marked, designed to guide visitors safely through the rugged terrain, yet the allure of a unique vantage point or an unrecorded natural wonder often tempts even seasoned hikers. It was at some point that morning, amidst the captivating beauty of the falls, that Rafiq and Noor Karim made a critical deviation. They left the established path, venturing into the less traveled, more unpredictable wilderness. Perhaps it was a desire for a closer view of a specific cascade, or the innocent curiosity of a child pulling her father off trail, but the decision placed them in immediate peril. As the day progressed, the weather, typically reliable for early summer, shifted with alarming speed. A storm, unpredicted in its ferocity, began to close in, transforming the idyllic blue sky into a menacing gray. Mountain weather systems are notoriously fickle, capable of turning a pleasant afternoon into a life-threatening ordeal within minutes, and this day was no exception. Rain began to fall, turning trails slick and obscuring visibility, while temperatures dropped precipitously. Their scheduled checkout time passed without contact. Initially, it was a minor concern, a slight delay perhaps, but as the hours stretched and the storm intensified, the concern rapidly escalated into active alarm. Ranger Belen Ortiz received the report of the overdue hikers, a notification that often signals the start of a race against time. The park's missing persons protocols were immediately activated. The chilling realization settled over the vast wilderness. 2 individuals, a father and his young daughter, were now lost within its formidable expanse. The first light of dawn brought not relief, but the grim reality of a full-scale search. Yosemite National Park immediately mobilized an unprecedented large-scale operation. Ground teams comprising park rangers, seasoned volunteers, and search and rescue specialists fanned out across the rugged landscape surrounding Chilnwalna Falls. They combed dense forests, navigated treacherous rockfalls, and meticulously scoured the banks of the swollen waterways, now even more volatile after the storm. Above, aerial reconnaissance teams in helicopters systematically covered wider areas, their powerful spotlights piercing the lingering morning mist, searching for any sign, any anomaly in the vast green expanse. The formidable obstacles of the Yosemite wilderness quickly became apparent. The sheer scale of the park, encompassing over 100 square miles, was a searcher's worst nightmare. Around Chilnwalna Falls, the terrain was particularly unforgiving. Steep inclines gave way to sudden drops, and the recent storm had left behind a treacherous environment of slippery surfaces, unstable ground, and roaring cascades. The high-flow conditions of the falls meant that any individual swept into the water would face overwhelming odds. Despite the monumental effort, the search yielded a frustrating absence of immediate clues. There were no telltale footprints leading off trail, no dropped water bottles, no discarded items of clothing, no indication of their path after leaving the main route. It was as if Rafiq and Noor Karim had simply vanished. While the physical search unfolded, another critical role emerged: family liaison. Tom Ellery was assigned to the Karim family, acting as a crucial conduit between the harrowing search efforts and the agonizing weight of their loved ones. He delivered updates, however scarce, and offered support during this period of unbearable uncertainty, navigating their hopes and fears with solemn professionalism. Days bled into weeks, and despite the tireless dedication of hundreds of personnel, the wilderness held its secrets. With no new leads and after exhausting every possible avenue, the heartbreaking decision was made to scale down the active search. Rafiq and Noor Karim remained unfound, swallowed by the immense indifferent beauty of Yosemite. 8 years unfolded since Rafiq and Noor Karim vanished into the vast expanse of Yosemite. 8 seasons had cycled through the park, each bringing its own tapestry of renewal and decay. The snows of winter melted into the roaring cascades of spring, giving way to the golden haze of summer and the fiery hues of autumn. The trails Rafiq and Noor had once walked were trodden by countless other visitors, their laughter echoing where a father and daughter's last steps were taken. For the Karim family, however, time did not heal. It merely deepened the wound. Rafiq and Noor were officially designated as missing persons, a legal status that offered no comfort, only an enduring uncertainty. It represented the agonizing limbo between life and death, preventing any true closure, any traditional mourning. The questions lingered, sharp and relentless. Where did they go? What were their final moments? The wilderness held its breath, offering no answers to the silent pleas. Despite the scaling down of the active search, the file on Rafiq and Noor Karim was never truly closed within the park's records. For individuals like Ranger Belen Ortiz, who had been there from the initial alarm, such cases remained an indelible part of the park's history and her own consciousness. A faint, persistent hope for a chance discovery, however improbable after so long, always remained. Disappearances in vast national parks are a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability against nature's raw power. The sheer scale of the landscape, its unforgiving terrain, and the rapid changes in environmental conditions mean that many who vanish are never found. The wilderness, in its magnificent indifference, often keeps its secrets forever, and the case of Rafiq and Noor Karim seemed destined to become another one of Yosemite's enduring, unsolved mysteries. 8 years after Rafiq and Noor Karim vanished, Yosemite continued its eternal cycle of seasons, its grandeur unchanged by the passage of time or the unresolved human tragedy it held. Routine operations persisted, maintaining the vast network of trails and facilities that welcomed millions. It was during one such patrol late in the spring that a park ranger was inspecting the lower reaches of Chilnwalna Falls, assessing erosion and clearing minor debris from the high-flow conditions of the season. The area, though extensively searched years prior, was subject to constant environmental shifts, with new snags and deposits appearing with each major runoff. The ranger's gaze fell upon a small incongruous flash of color amidst the grey rock and verdant undergrowth. Partially obscured by a cluster of gnarled alder roots, where the churning waters of the falls had receded slightly, lay a small discolored object. It was a child's wool scarf, its vibrant hue faded by years of exposure, yet still unmistakably a piece of clothing. The fabric was snagged securely within the tenacious root system, held fast against the relentless current that had long since carried away other, less fortunate detritus. Closer inspection revealed not only the distinctive knit of a child's garment, but also tiny, glittering flecks of mica, embedded deep within its fibers, a detail that immediately suggested a specific geological environment. The discovery was reported instantly, sending a ripple through the park's long-dormant missing persons file. Ranger Belen Ortiz, whose memory of the Karim disappearance remained sharp and unyielding, felt an immediate jolt of recognition and a surge of renewed urgency. This was not merely a lost item. It was a child's scarf found near the very location where Rafiq and Noor were last known to have ventured. The emotional weight of the find was immense, transforming a cold, abstract case into something tangible, heartbreakingly real. The embedded mica, a seemingly minor detail, held the potential to be a critical key, hinting at a precise origin point within the vast, complex terrain of Chilnualna Falls. 8 years of silence had been shattered. The investigation into the vanishing of Rafiq and Noor Karim was suddenly, dramatically, reignited. The child's wool scarf, once a symbol of childhood innocence, now became the focal point of a renewed modern investigation. 8 years had passed since Rafiq and Noor vanished, and in that time, forensic science had evolved significantly, offering new avenues for inquiry that were unavailable during the initial search. This artifact, pulled from the relentless grip of nature, demanded a different kind of detective work, one that transcended traditional ground searches and relied on highly specialized expertise. To unlock the secrets held within the weathered fibers, park officials enlisted the aid of Dr. Maya Kincaid, a botanist renowned for her work in forensic palynology, the study of pollen and spores. Dr. Kincaid's unique skill set was crucial. She could decipher the microscopic environmental fingerprints left behind on objects, potentially pinpointing the exact location from which they originated. Her initial examination of the scarf was meticulous. She confirmed its material as wool, its size consistent with a child's garment, and carefully noted the tiny, glittering flecks of mica embedded deep within its texture. Mica, a common mineral in Yosemite's granitic landscape, was not itself unique, but its presence suggested a specific interaction with rock or sediment, hinting at a distinct geological environment where the scarf had been lost or snagged. However, the most promising avenue for Dr. Kincaid was the analysis of its pollen signature. Microscopic pollen grains, invisible to the naked eye, adhere readily to clothing, especially wool. These grains are like natural barcodes, each species producing a distinct shape and size. By identifying the specific types of pollen present on the scarf, Dr. Kincaid could construct a botanical profile, an environmental fingerprint that would reveal the flora of the precise location where Noor's scarf had spent its final moments before being caught. This painstaking process involved carefully extracting samples from various parts of the scarf, preparing them on slides, and then identifying each individual grain under a high-powered microscope. It was a painstaking, almost meditative task, as Kincaid worked to transform these tiny, ancient clues into a definitive geographical marker, hoping to narrow down a vast, unforgiving wilderness to a single, crucial point. Dr. Maya Kincaid's meticulous work in the laboratory culminated in a profound revelation that would redefine the entire investigation. After weeks of painstaking analysis, she delivered her findings. The unique pollen signature extracted from Noor Karim's scarf precisely matched the flora found in a specific localized environment. It was an upper Cascade grotto, a hidden, watery niche situated high above the main trail of Chilnualna Falls. This was a location far more remote and difficult to access than any area covered by the initial extensive ground searches 8 years prior, a place where the churning waters and dense undergrowth concealed its existence from casual observation. The discovery immediately narrowed the search area from miles of rugged wilderness to a precise botanically defined point. However, physically accessing and thoroughly surveying such a concealed grotto presented its own challenges. This is where advanced technology, unavailable during the initial disappearance, proved indispensable. Park officials deployed light detection and ranging, or LiDAR, a sophisticated mapping tool. LiDAR works by emitting millions of laser pulses, which penetrate dense foliage and reflect off the terrain below, creating an incredibly detailed, three-dimensional topographical map of the landscape. This capability was crucial for peering through the thick canopy and vegetation that had long obscured the grotto from conventional aerial and ground observation. The LiDAR data, once processed, unveiled what human eyes and earlier search methods had missed. Within the upper Cascade grotto, the technology traced a hidden ledge, a narrow shelf of rock that was otherwise invisible beneath the overhanging vegetation and the spray of the falls. This ledge, now identified, offered a plausible, albeit perilous, path for Rafiq and Noor, perhaps sought as a vantage point or a momentary refuge from the sudden storm. The synthesis of evidence was chillingly clear. Maya Kincaid's botanical fingerprint had pinpointed the general area. and LiDAR had then provided the precise structural context. The combined data suggested a tragic sequence of events. They had deviated from the trail, sought or traversed the hidden ledge in the Upper Cascade Grotto, and during the furious storm, a localized slide, triggered by the torrential rain and high flow conditions, had likely swept them from the ledge. The momentum would have carried them into an impassable chute, a deep, narrow fissure in the rock face, where their remains would be irretrievable, lost to the relentless forces of the falls. The mystery of their final moments began to unravel with a heartbreaking clarity. The truth, painstakingly pieced together over 8 long years, finally unveiled the tragic fate of Rafiq and Noor Karim. They had deviated from the marked trail, drawn by an unknown curiosity or seeking refuge from the sudden, violent storm that engulfed Yosemite that day. On a hidden ledge within the Upper Cascade Grotto, a location meticulously identified by the pollen signature on Noor's scarf and mapped by LiDAR, they were caught. The torrential rain and high-flow conditions of Chilnualna Falls had triggered a localized slide, a powerful surge of water and debris that swept them from the precarious ledge. Their trajectory led them directly into an impassable chute, a deep, narrow fissure in the rock face, perpetually scoured by the relentless force of the cascading water. The nature of this chute meant that while their final moments were now understood, the physical recovery of their remains was an impossibility. For the Karim family, this resolution, though heartbreaking, brought with it a profound, if painful, sense of finality. Tom Ellery, the family liaison who had supported them through years of agonizing uncertainty, bore the solemn responsibility of conveying this definitive news. His message, a mixture of sorrow and the strange relief that comes with knowing, allowed the family to transition from a state of perpetual limbo to a path of grieving rooted in understanding rather than endless, tormenting speculation. There would be no traditional burial, but there was now a truth around which their memories could coalesce. The case of Rafiq and Noor Karim left an indelible mark on Yosemite National Park. It underscored the critical importance of staying on marked trails, especially during periods of high flow or volatile weather, and prompted a review of safety communication. More significantly, it showcased the transformative power of advanced forensic techniques. The meticulous work of botanist Maya Kincaid and the precision of LiDAR technology had turned a cold case, seemingly lost to the vastness of the wilderness, into a solved mystery. Yosemite remained a place of breathtaking beauty and immense untamed power, a constant reminder of both the allure and the inherent dangers of the natural world. It had ultimately claimed a father and daughter, but through the unwavering dedication of its rangers and the quiet persistence of science, it had in time yielded its secret.